Ghostbath with their brand new album Starmourner. Now here's a band that's taken an interesting route in order to be kind of well known. And by well known I of course mean that within the heavy metal underground this is a band whose name is going to draw out some opinions. It's to the point where perhaps there should be a 5 reasons video on these guys. If you like that idea, put 5 reasons people hate Ghostbath in the comments box below. But this is a group that gained notoriety because it was stated that they were not from the States, that they were actually from overseas, the Far East, and that they were making this very unique take on post-black metal, on black gaze, if you really want to call it that, and they were gaining some reputation as sounding a lot like a band that just scored one of their biggest successes at that time, and that band being Death Heaven with Sunbather. So with their last album, Moonlover, this is a band that had gained a lot of attention. But it seems like between the release of Moonlover and the release here of Starmourner, that tone has shifted, that things have become very interesting, that almost like the tide and the crowd has turned a little bit on this band, and I really don't understand why. There's not much that's really shifted about them. Is it simply because it was revealed that they were actually based out of North Dakota, and North Dakota isn't, you know, Krieg enough for all of you? It does get pretty cold up there. But at any rate, let's talk about Starmourner, this 12-track affair from a band that has gained some real attention based off its unique verb whenever it comes to the style of black gaze or post-black metal. Astral starts this one off and does so in a very calm sort of introductory format, going straight into Seraphic, which is where you get introduced to some of the core elements of Ghostbath's sound. If you are unfamiliar with this band and perhaps are checking this out for the first time based on seeing this name quite a few places, you're going to notice a lot of the things that people are talking about. For one, the vocals on this track, and you're going to notice on most of the tracks here on Starmourner, are almost indecipherable. They almost sound like just simple howls, cries, just tortured bellows that are coming from the very belly of the singer here, that just sort of is painted over this atmosphere of post-black metal that has one of two sides to it, one of two real emotions to it. Of course, the chirpy, kind of happier side that has a little bit more of a positivity etched in the way in which its riff pattern is concocted. It still has that black metal backbone with the fast-paced picking, but at the same time it is also done within more of the major scale as opposed to the minor scale, or at least done with a little bit more of a chirpy or a very kind of bright sounding atmosphere that then quickly can turn around and go into the bellows. It can just go right into the depths of hell, where that sort of major, that sort of, you know, sunny disposition quickly turns to torture, to mourning, to destruction. And the band themselves have really stated, and whenever you consider the idea of Ghostbath, it's the idea of what happens after you die. There's supposed to be a lot of melancholy soaked within this. There's supposed to be a lot of depression soaked in this. This is meant to be, I guess, a little bit of suicidal post-black metal. Who knows? We're not too sure. We really don't care. That's too many damn adjectives for me. This is instead something where I feel that the band has a little bit of a silencer addiction whenever it comes to the lyricism, or perhaps Ghostbath is the band that's meant to really bring that style of lyricism, or bring that style of singing sort of back after, of course, the silencer hype sort of died down a little bit. By the way, silencer, kind of a novelty whenever it comes to bands. Isn't necessarily the greatest thing on earth, far from it, but certainly an interesting take on the genre, to say the least. Ghostbath has that too, and I think that some of the real comparisons that are being drawn between them and Death Heaven really don't hold as large of a candle as many people think that they do. Yes, they do employ some of the same tactics, but it's done in a different way. It's done in a different light, and Ghostbath sort of has their own ambiance to them, and I just don't feel that this material has the same amount of strength. There's not as much diversity to it, and whenever you look at a song such as Celestial, for example, or even Eternal, or I should say Ethereal, you notice this. You notice how some of these riffs are just sort of really, they are really drawn upon over and over again and used quite a bit. It seems as though in some places that they were hoping that the power of some of their compositions was going to be based off of simple elements, based off of the real drawing factor of some of their riffs, and it just doesn't work. Instead, it feels very lazy. It feels like a band that just sort of ran out of transitional pieces. They weren't too sure where they wanted to go with the end point of a track, either that or they were unsure of what next. So instead, they just opted for repetition, and for the record, the repetitious parts are okay. I mean, it's not like they're bad parts, but they don't have the same draw factor that you would hear potentially in, say, stoner metal, either that or even drone, something that uses repetition as a way to really transition into another portion, either that or as a building block to add to that repetition in order to make it morph into something completely different, even though that same repetitious part is being utilized perhaps at the very bottom part of a composition. So that's where there's a lot of difference here. And this, based off of this, and based off of the idea that some of these aspects can be a bit predictable, does make Starmourner at times a very tedious listen. It is a bit of a tedium whenever you're trying to go from Astral all the way down to Ode to finish this one off. There are some twists and turns. They are a band that is willing to explore a softer side, and that is something that does help them out quite a bit, but I feel like they still need a little bit more whenever it comes to the overall idea of expanding the horizons and having it showcased over a wider breadth. You know, I hope that with their next album we see this utilized a little bit more, and I think the showcase point will really be with curveballs. And I don't feel there were enough curveballs or enough real displays of variance on Starmourner to really I guess supply or supplant the hype. It's a band that instead feels like there's all of this talk about them, and it feels a bit overdrawn and over, you know, really overrated, I guess, a little bit. You know, this is, so many people are talking about this group, and I don't see why. They feel and come off on Starmourner as a far more average band than they did with Moonlover, which was a very, very strong album. One that still utilized many of the same accent points that you hear on Starmourner, don't get me wrong, but it felt like the songwriting and overall composition was just very well constructed and concocted. Really, this was a group that with that album had a lot more focus, at least from what we felt, delivered on that disc than here on Starmourner. This is a 15 out of 30. I'm a bit disappointed because I was a big fan of Moonlover. I thought that it was a great disc, one that I didn't get to talk about, but instead one that I was able to talk up in a 50 bands that you need to know list, for example, with high regard. So this comes off as a little bit of a disappointment, but at the same time, there are some positives that you can take away from this. For example, this is a band that is continuing to morph a little bit, and it's a group that is going to see what Starmourner is able to, really do for them, and perhaps use that to launch them into the next part of their career, and really display a little bit more in the way of commonality, or at least a little bit more in the way of exploration. I feel that Ghostbath could easily be cosmic travelers whenever it comes to their sound, especially based around what they say that their sound or their name is really meant to behold. I feel like it just wasn't captured quite as beautifully on Starmourner as it was in years past, but I also feel that this band has that capability to really recapture that magic. Black Gaze kind of has that, I think, real razor's edge to it, where it can be done exceptionally well, and then on the other side, it can feel incredibly average. And this one just ended up on the wrong side of those two coins. Those people who think I'm wrong, that's fine. I'm actually very happy that you liked it a little bit more than I did, but in the comments box below, let me know why you did. I'm CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. And I hope that you're able to come out to some of the streams that we've been having this month and in some of the months that are going to follow. We've been doing a 50-50 charity right now to help out the one-of-a-kind pet shelter out in Akron, Ohio. So if you do have a donation that you would like to give for that cause, definitely scope out some of the information that's in the description box below. And if you do decide to donate, thank you very much. We appreciate it. This is going to help out a lot of great animals. Find some forever friends, some homes where they previously were on death row. And that's not cool. We don't need these animals delivering a ghost bath. I think I used that in the right context. I'll talk to you later.